Hey guys, welcome back. It's your boy Jaminator. I'm doing another video. This is going to be some basic TCG Pokemon card sequencing. And today's deck that I'll be featuring in this tutorial will be the Ancient Box deck that I'm currently running. Just took this to a League Cup over the weekend and got third place with this one. So the list is pretty good. And it's almost a standard list, except I do have a Thornton in it. But apart from that, it's stock standard Ancient Box. And the reason why I think Ancient Box would be a good example for another how to sequence video is because almost every card in the Ancient Box deck either draws cards, searches cards, or lets you choose between cards or discards cards from your deck. So it's all for making choices which help you sequence. And then just to recap, what is sequencing? Why is it so important for playing in the TCG? Sequencing could be the difference between the 3 cards you have in your hand and being able to draw another 3 cards, or being able to draw 5 or 6 cards, or seeing 5 or 6 cards and being able to choose from those. And you might think, well, what's the difference between 3 and 6 cards? Well, sometimes it could make or break a game, being able to see more cards. And also if you're trying to fulfill your strategy for the turn or your strategy for your game, what your deck's built to do, generally speaking, seeing more cards and being able to choose from more cards helps you fulfill that strategy and pull off what you're trying to do. Let's try some opening hands with this Ancient Box deck. And we'll see once we start what we've been dealt with in the hand. I would like to do some examples on what you shouldn't do as well. But mostly today we're learning what you should be doing. We start with 7 cards. We get a basic Pokemon, Flutter Mane, goes in the active. Put our prize cards down. Cool, so we've got our hand here. Now before we start, we need to understand what's in this Ancient Box deck. So usually our strategy in Ancient Box, step 1, we want to get our Pokemon out, set our board up. Step 2, we're going to be looking for starters, so we can power up our Roaring Moons, which is our attacker, and we're using them to take knockouts. And then step 3, if possible, draw as many cards or thin your deck out of all the useless crap that you don't need, so that you can prevent your opponent from Iono, Roxanne, and Unfair Stamping you into just useless cards. So remember that. Step 1, Pokemon. Step 2, starter. Step 3, thin the deck. Alright, so we draw for turn. We've got another basic Pokemon, Roaring Moon EX. Usually in most situations, I'm only ever Thorntoning or getting this into play when we're taking knockouts. But in this situation, we're just going to go through some basic sequencing. We don't need this. Now, the first thing we can do is we can nest ball. It's always good to nest ball first. You can search the deck. If the Radiant Greninja's there, you get it straight away. All right. Nest ball. Have a look. There's some ancient Pokemon. Here's Radiant Greninja. Grab that, put it on the bench. Might be a good idea now to count how many energies are in the deck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got 1 here. That's 6, so 1 more's prized. And then we'll do a starter count because that's very important. And Roaring Moon count. So 1 moon, 2 moons, 1 starter, 3 moons, 4 moons, 2 starters, 3 starters. So 1 starter is prized. All right, how can we get to a starter? If this was first turn, probably not going to get it this turn because we can't play it. But what we could do is try and find a Pokegear, which will find us a starter. Try and find a Pokestop, which will find us Pokegear, for a Sada. We can draw some cards with Radiant Greninja. We can get energies out of the deck, make the deck have less cards in it that are not Sada. We can find out A-Spec, the Zinger box, to try and get a Sada. There's a lot of ways we can get through this, but there's also incorrect ways to do it. The correct way from here is to thin the deck, since the only other card that can search a deck is this Earthen Vessel. So we can discard a Roy Moon and search for 2 energies. And the reason we do this before using conceal cards is if we take 2 energies out of the deck, now there is more cards in the deck that we can draw that are not energy cards. And also there are now more cards. Now there are more cards in the deck we can draw that get us closer to a Sada. So we're reducing the number of cards in the deck. So we Earthen Vessel that, grab ourselves 2 energies. Nice little shuffle here. Now the math behind it is the reason why we're doing this. This is called sequencing. Now we could always just go full guns blazing, go for luck, conceal cards straight away, we might get a Sada. But statistically speaking, when you remove cards from the deck, you're increasing your chances of drawing that card that you want. So in the long run, in the grand scheme of things, it's just better to do it this way. Now we have 3 energies. We've thinned the deck, this is good. We can now use our conceal cards, and we have some energies next turn as well to do another conceal cards. Draw, draw, look at that. Found ourselves a Sada for next turn. All right, let's start our next turn. See if we can get a Roaring Moon and then perhaps attack with this. Draw for turn, here's a Roaring Moon. And put our Roaring Moon down. Now there's 1 energy in the discard. Sada requires 1 to work, but you can do up to 2. So we're going to put an extra 1 in by conceal cards right now. Now what we can also do is nest ball out an extra 1. There we go. And then give a little shuffle. We can now play our Sada here. And the reason we put it on here is because we want to retreat. So now we've got that. We've got some stuff for our next turn. And then we can finally attach and then retreat and attack with our Roaring Moon here. All right, so that was some turn 1 and 2 basic sequencing. Let's try another one. See if we've been dealt some different cards. And if you can take away something from this and it'll help you play your game, that'd be awesome. Sequencing skills is something that's transferable between decks as well. So you can take what you learn from this video and apply it to almost any other deck that you're playing. And it'll help you achieve your strategies. All right, let's give another shot. Another opening hand, turn 1 and 2. There we go, 7 cards. Get ourselves a basic. We've got Greninja here. Greninja goes down. Put our prizes out. We can draw for turn, and here is our opening hand. So the first thing I see that's wrong with this hand is we do not have a ball search to get a Roaring Moon out so we can start attacking. We also don't have any basic Pokemon except for this one, which is kind of useless. So we probably want to be looking for some basic Pokemon as soon as possible. Good thing we have an energy to do conceal cards, but we might save that until the end. Now here's a good example of another new sequencing strategy. So we've got a choice of using conceal cards here, and we've also got Pokestop. We don't have any other deck search. We've also got a Pokegear. Now what we could do is a lot of people make this mistake and they conceal cards first. And we've now got a full deck of cards. We'll draw 2. You might get something good, you might not. But what you can do instead is thin. So first we can play our Pokegear. There's 2 supporters in our hands, so there's going to be another 9 or 10 in the deck. You're probably going to hit a supporter. So you're going to thin one out. And this also means that when you Pokestop, you're not going to hit that supporter. And then the next thing we're going to do is play the Pokestop, which removes 3 cards from the deck. And because we still have a ton of cards left in the deck, you still got a good chance of hitting item cards. You might hit an energy, you might hit supporter. But if we do not hit a basic Pokemon or what we need, we'll now get it off our concealed cards. But we've got a higher chance at the moment of hitting items because there are more cards in the deck. Whereas if we use concealed cards and drew into the items, Pokestop will not hit them. So let's try this out. So we'll play Pokegear first. 6, 7. We'll take a boss's orders, so thin the deck a little bit. That's what we would have got if we conceal cards or Pokestopped. So it wouldn't have really helped us, those ones. But now we get to thin the deck. So there's one less card that we don't need out of the deck that we can try and draw into. And then now we can use our Pokestop, because now there's one less supporter card in the deck. That means there's more items. So we'll put the Pokestop down, spin the Pokestop. So we can take those. We can thin again. Pokegear, get some more supporters out of the deck. 5, 6, 7. We'll take the Thornton. Just thinning more cards out of the deck. So now we have 2 cards out of the deck, plus some more from Pokestop, and now we can finally use our concealed cards. And look at that. We've got some basic Pokemon, we've got some items. And if we had these 4 more cards still left in the deck, you now have an extra 4 cards in there, which is decreasing your chance of drawing into these basic Pokemon. So we can put down Fluttermane, of course, get ourselves a Roaring Moon out, and we should be all set to go for next turn. Now just a little advanced tip for sequencing. If you want to attack next turn, you're going to need to solder and attach to this one, and this one's going to need an energy already on it to retreat. So what we're going to do is get our energy back by discarding these, and then we're going to manually attach it to Greninja. So when we retreat next turn, we can still solder onto this and attack. For example, we draw for turn, Pokestop, and then retreat, and solder onto here, and hopefully we'll get an energy. Cool. So we get an energy from that, and you've got your attack set up, ready to go. We're gonna do just one last opening hand with Ancient Box, just to run through a little more of basic sequencing with this. And seeing if we can maximize the amount of cards we can get. Nice little shuffle. Gonna be going first again. Actually, let's go second this time. Might get a supporter. Cool. So if we're going second, we have a choice of these two Pokemon to put down as our active Pokemon. Usually if you're going second, that means your opponent is going to be attacking first. So whatever you put in the active spot's probably going to get knocked out. The good thing about this card in this deck is that we use it to get knocked out. Basically, you discard them and you let people knock them out. It's not useful at all, except for that. This one, you kind of want to value these a bit more. These are your attackers. So what we're going to do is we're going to put that one in the active. We're going to put this one on the bench. And then we're going to put our 6 prize cards down and draw for turn. Now, if we're going second, we'd really be looking for a supporter card so we can start thinning our deck. We've got a few options here to thin our deck. We've got a Rainy Greninja, of course. We've got a Conceal card with a Zenergy. We can thin our deck as well with Nest Ball and get another Pokemon out. So first thing we're going to do is get the Nest Ball, thin the deck. We're going to have a look in here as well. Get a Roaring Moon out, do a Sada count. There's our A-Spec. Do a Roaring Moon count and an Energy count. So there's 4 Sadas, 1 Moon, because 1's prized, and then energies we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1 prized. 6 and 1 prized because 1's here. So we're going to need a pretty nasty top deck off this Conceal cards, but thankfully there's a lot of cards in this deck that can get us a supporter. We've got the A-Spec, we've got Pokestop, we've got Pokegear. There's a few things we can use. So now that we've got 1 less card out of the deck, we have a slightly, not too much, but a slight higher chance statistically of drawing into a supporter with this Greninja. So bench the Greninja, use the Conceal cards. Unfortunately, we did not get it, but we did the correct sequencing anyway. Next turn we can draw an Earthen Vessel. This one we get knocked out. We can do our more Conceal cards again, so we can Earthen Vessel, get rid of this. 2 more energies. Sadas are all at the bottom of the deck. Let's give another good shuffle. Usually you want to be going first with this deck. Even though you don't do a lot going first, it gives you 2 turns to try and set up. Usually you're not taking knockouts for quite some time. So the extra turn really helps. And then we'll Conceal again, hopefully get a supporter card. Did not, once again. Let's start again, 1 more opening hand going second. Hopefully we don't brick this time. The reason I want to do an example going second is because I want to run through at least a Adventurer's Discovery, or whatever it's called, Explorer's Guidance. It's a great card, but it also has a lot of choices when it comes to using it. And against some matchups, you want to be using that earlier than using your Sada. No basics. All right. We've got 2 Pokemon, Nest Ball, Energy, Pokestop, Thornton, and a Sada. Going second, remember, put the useless Pokemon out first. That's going to get killed straight away usually. Then we'll draw for turn. Let's think about what we're going to do. We can search our deck with Nest Ball, find a Greninja, which thins the deck. We've also got Pokestop and an Energy, We've got a Roaring Moon, we can put that on the bench. We've also got a Great Tusk and a Sada. So if we manage to discard the energy, we can also activate the Sada to draw some cards, and the Gradient Greninja to draw cards, and Pokestop to also draw cards. The first thing we always do is search the deck with the Nest Ball, because there's no downside. Looking through the little count of energy, 2 energies, 1 moon, 3 energies, 1 Sada, 4 energies, 5 energies, 6 energies, Radiant Greninja, 2 moons. So 1 moon's prized, 1 Sada's in hand, 1 Sada's in deck. So if I'm right, 2 Sadas are actually prized, which is not great, but it's so lucky that we've already got 1 in our hand. Now the next thing we're going to do is put the Pokestop up. Because we have a lot more cards in the deck, we have a higher chance of hitting an item card. So we'll actually be drawing cards most of the time if we use Pokestop here. And then we can use Greninja afterwards. If we hit items, that means we have a higher chance of hitting a support off Greninja, because there's now less item cards in the deck and more cards in the deck that are supporters. So let's use Pokestop now. That's not too bad. We get rid of all of those, but that puts our ancient count up. Now I can hit the Radiant Greninja. Great, 2 energies. Now I think we have to use Sada here so we can keep drawing cards. I'm gonna use that, put it on the Roaring Moon and draw 3. Great. Spin the deck a bit more, get 1 more of those little moons out. I think this is the last one because 1's prized and 1's been dead. Now we've got a few energies left. What we can do here is now manually attach 1 to the second Roaring Moon. And the reason we're doing that is because we know this is going to get knocked out next turn, but they could also boss and kill one of these. And without a Sada, only 1 more Sada left in the deck, it's pretty unlikely that we're going to get 2 energies on 1 of these in 1 turn. So that's why we do it. So next turn they kill this. Then we put our Roaring Moon in the active. Now this is our hand here. It would be a greedy play to use concealed cards here, because we're not going to guarantee an energy. And if we don't guarantee an energy, we can't attack because this needs 2. So the last thing we're going to do is actually conceal cards. And then at the moment, we can use our Pokestop and Pokegear. So Pokegear first, see if we hit a supporter. 5, 6, 7. We're going to hit Explorer's Guidance. This is great in this situation because this is going to help us find more cards that we need. We don't need to power anything up with Sada. Explorers is going to be very good in this situation. Now we can use Pokestop. Great. Pokegear again, keep thinning. Nothing. One more Pokegear. And then we'll take that Explorer's Guidance. And even though we have Explorer's Guidance, we're still not going to use Radiant Greninja until the last possible second, because we don't want to risk not being able to attack. So what we can play here is the supporter card. Looks at the top 6 cards of your deck, and you get to keep 2 of them. So I don't mind getting rid of Pokestop since we've already got 1 in play. We want to keep a Super Rod no matter what, because recovering things is super important. A lot of the other things we can get back, like Boss with our Power Pad, so we can get rid of that. We don't need any more Pokemon in play. So we can get rid of Ultra Ball, and then we can always recover a basic energy since we're also keeping our Super Rod. So we can get rid of basic energy too, and we're keeping these. So that's the thought process behind Explorer's Guidance. Discard as many cards as possible that you can recover, and keep cards, most of all keep cards that you can't recover, or keep cards that are going to help you execute a game-winning turn or game-winning strategy for the next couple of turns. That was not an easy one to do, that one. But now there should be, yeah, 1 energy in here. So there's more in the deck, so we can get rid of something useless, get some energies out, and now we can finally use concealed cards because we have enough energies to attack and enough energies to use the ability. Look at that. We've gone through so many cards this turn. We can use our concealed cards here, draw some stuff, manually attach, and now we've got some damage. That was pretty good. All right, guys, that's just some basic sequencing. Now look at those prizes, terrible. Oh, but we still did pretty well with what we had. So that's basic sequencing with Ancient Box. Hopefully you can take some of this away and add it to your own decks. Maybe you're also playing Ancient Box, but it works really well in any sequence heavy decks. Remember, this is a transferable skill. It's going to help you become a really good player no matter what deck you're playing. It all comes down to those little decisions you make to help maximize your chance of success in pulling off your turn strategy and your whole game strategy. All right, guys, I'll see you in another video. Peace out.